إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Brothers, Jazakumullah khair for attending the weekly youth circle. As we know, it's that time of year again, Christmas. Obviously, if you're driving down here, you would have seen all the lights. If you're listening carefully to your colleagues at work, everyone's either talking about the presents they want to buy for their children, presents they want to buy for their colleagues, and if they're trying to be smart enough, they want to buy presents for their bosses as well. And the majority of the conversation about Christmas at the moment that is taking place is actually revolving around buying presents for either your family or your colleagues at work or your friends. And of course, as we know, that many of the retailers and the big businesses are taking a lot of advantage of that, to the extent where the whole issue of Christmas, when we're talking about Christmas, it's coming to an issue of consumerism. They've taken any Christian concepts out of the event of Christmas itself, and it's just revolving around the issue of buying gifts, the cheapest way to get there. How, is it cheaper online? Is it cheaper for me to go to the shops? Where's the best place to buy this and that? To the extent whereby if you said to your friends or your colleagues, this year I'm not going to buy any presents, I'm just going to have a little quiet sit down with my family, you'll be seen as quite a strange person. Just for the fact that you're not going to buy anything, or you're not going to be involved in this, buying presents for whoever it is. And this is actually for two reasons. Number one is the push that secularism and the effect that secularism has on Christianity, as Brother Yahya will explain later on, inshallah. And the other reason is that Christianity itself is a religion which accepts this type of push from another idea such as secularism. And what we want to discuss today, inshallah, is there anything that we can learn as Muslims? In the same way that there's a push towards secularizing and successfully doing so, actually, secularizing Christianity, is there a push to secularize Islam? And what are the dangers of that? And is Islam actually a religion, or is it something else? And this is why we've got Brother Yahya, inshallah, which, if I may add, he himself is actual revert to Islam, alhamdulillah, and has come from a Christian background. And he will discuss all of this with us, inshallah, and then we can move on to a Q&A afterwards. So, yeah, and if I can ask all the brothers to just come a bit closer, inshallah, so that you can hear, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah khair, Hassan. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Although Hassan said I used to be Christian, doesn't make me no expert on Christianity, but I wanted to actually start off today with a question to some of you. I hope you don't mind. And that question is, who here thinks Islam is a religion? What would you say, brother? Is Islam a religion?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Okay. What about you?
Yeah.
Islam's a religion? Okay. Anyone else? Who here? Put your hands up if you think Islam is a religion. Okay, so it's a bit mixed. Okay. I'll come on to why I said that. So just to go into what a religion is. A religion is, quite simply, a belief, a creed in a deity, in a God, with rituals and practices relating to worship or everyday actions. So if we take Christianity, for example, some of you are probably familiar with Christianity. It has a belief in the Creator. They have rituals around church, things like that. But if you were to ask a Christian, what is the Christian solution for poverty? What do you think they would say? They'd probably say, obviously, of course, Christianity is all about removing poverty. But if I was to press them further and say, okay, so what is your policies on the result? What would you do practically as a Christian? What would the Christian religion do to remove poverty? Do you have the concept of, do you have laws regarding distribution of wealth? Do you have a tax? Things like that? They'd probably would say no. Or if I was to ask him what's the Christian view on crime and punishment, he'd probably say, of course, Christianity is for justice, it's for bringing people to justice. But if I was to ask him, okay, what does a Christian court look like? Or what does a Christian justice system look like? Can you give me an example? He'd probably say, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God, i.e., we have no answer. Or economy, job creation, things like that. What would be the Christian answer? Foreign relations, what's the Christian solution for Palestine? Or what's the Christian solution for the world issues, the world conflict that we have today? So you'll find the answer to many of those things. Not just to give Christianity an easy time, it's not just Christianity, but with all other religions, they have no real answer to these problems. They have no solutions, they have nothing to offer for these real vital questions which concern everyday life. Poverty, crime and punishment, these are things we all worry about, and religions have no answer to it. Is Islam the same though, however? Some of us might put Islam in the category as religions, but does Islam have an answer to these questions?
Yes.
So to answer, obviously utilise the audience, if you were to ask the Muslim now, what's the Islamic solution on poverty?
Taxes.
Okay, distribution of wealth. Okay, distribution of wealth. How does Islam do that?
Whatever is the natural resources come from the earth, they just equally distribute among people. So obviously solve the poverty.
That's right. We have
collecting zakat,
giving to the sadaqah.
People.
So can you see? Islam actually, when you ask a Muslim these things, we can bring real answers or solutions. What does Islam say on crime and punishment? Hudud. So you have a system. You have a judicial process, like talks about how many witnesses, if someone steals, if he was poor before he stole or not, if he stole out agreed, if there was enough witnesses, then you would implement the hudud. You see, economy. If any of you were here for our RS talk a few weeks ago, there were the 10 points of economy. What is this? Islam has specific rulings on every aspect of economy, from job creation to principles of trading. So a Muslim can deliver actual real solutions and laws to these issues, or even foreign affairs. What's the ruling on our foreign affairs, our relationship with other nations? What is it the responsibility of a Muslim country or Islamic country implementing Islam to do? How does he interact with surrounding nations? How does Islam project the rest of the world? So you find in all these matters actually, what separates a Muslim or Islam from other religions, not just Christianity, is that it can offer real practical solutions to everyday problems, which religions can't answer. So in that, can we say Islam is a religion? Or is it more right to say Islam's a comprehensive, complete way of life? Rather than a religion which doesn't offer solutions to practical problems. I was just looking through some articles the other day, and on David Cameron's Easter speech in April, he said that Britain is still a Christian country. It still maintains itself. Its identity is a Christian country. Where is this Christianity if I was to go out in the streets tonight, on a Friday night? And you see all these pubs, clubs. Where is this Christian country David Cameron's talking about? Or in trade, do we see Christianity in trade? Do we see honest dealings, between traders or people selling, or companies selling in the marketplace or in the shopping malls? Or do we see greed or drive for wealth? Dishonesty. Where's this Christianity he's talking about? Socially, do we see that marriage being promoted as an institution in the Western society, this Christian country? Do we see the opposite? An increase in relationships outside of marriage. Increase in children being born outside of marriage. Or you don't even have to be with a woman. You could be with a man if you're a man, or a woman could be with a woman. You know, you can have as many girlfriends as you like. So where's this Christianity David Cameron was talking about? Even Christmas. Is Christmas about Christianity? As Ghassan was talking about earlier. You know, do you really get the sense that around this time of year there's this push to remind people about remembering Jesus, or remembering the death, as they believe the death of Jesus for our sins? Or is it about remembering God or coming closer to God? Or is it about consumerism? Is it a marketing tool for companies to sell products? Is it an excuse for people to party, get absolutely drunk, you know, to spend all their salaries and max out all their credit cards? You know, all you have to do to see the drunkenness and the violence is just go into A&E if you're unfortunate to have to go in A&E on a Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. You know, where's Christianity there? You see? So the point of why I'm mentioning these things is the fact that Christianity actually, or any other religion, but obviously because it's an alleged Christian country, there's actually no effect of it in life whatsoever. You know, there's no resemblance of Christianity as in terms of as a system, as in terms of a moral value to live your life by. There's no remnants of it whatsoever. You know, and it's because it's been removed from life. You know, when they secularized the European countries many centuries ago, over time, all the moral teachings, all their moral principles of Christianity have been removed from the people to the point that you can't even call them Christians. In fact, in the last 10 years, 7 million people in this country don't declare themselves as Christian. That's 14 million in total who don't declare themselves as Christian in this country. You know, it has no bearing at all on life's affairs. You know, you don't even hear it in public, in natural speech. You know, as us, alhamdulillah, as Muslims, we use a lot of terminology like alhamdulillah. We don't realise this. Like, alhamdulillah, inshallah, God will, you know, inshallah, bidnillah. We say all this, you know, what do these mean? These mean, you know, God willing. All praise be to Allah. But what if you were to say in the workplace tomorrow, oh yes, I did a piece of work, all praise be to God. How would your non-Muslim colleague look at you? You'd be like, what are you on about? You know, or you said, peace be upon you. You'd be like, that's strange. You know? Or, oh, God willing, I'll meet that deadline. Isn't it? It'd be really weird, wouldn't it? They'll never. So even in their speech or in their talk, they don't even refer to God anymore. You see. So, and Tony Blake. David Cameron also mentioned in his further on that speech. He goes, across Britain, Christians don't just talk about loving their neighbour; they live it out in faith, schools, prisons, and in community groups. What community is he talking about here? Where's this loving your neighbour? Has any of you seen it? No? I mean, you probably live in dominant Muslim areas, but where I grow up is majority non-Muslim or English area. And when you're in these communities, do you see that community sense like we have as Muslims? Do you see people caring about their neighbour, working to do good, to solve their community problems, to deal with their drug issues? Do you see that amongst non-Muslim communities at all? Or do you find that they don't even know who their neighbour is, or who lives across the street? They probably just know their right and left neighbour, but they don't know who that is across the street. They just see him come out in the morning, leaving to go to work, and that's it. You know. So what Christian community is he talking about? Schools. Which schools is he talking about that there's Christian values in, where they're pushing to teach children sex education at young age, that it's acceptable to be homosexual, or to be a man, to be a woman and then be a man. This is acceptable, or to have multiple relationships outside of marriage, and this is pushed and enforced to our school kids through storybooks. You know, they have the characters, animal characters playing the parts of different roles. You know, so where's Christianity there? What Christian values is David Cameron talking about in our schools? You know, absolutely non-existent. And even the church as an institute has no real answer to these issues. You know, they're not even seen as relevant anymore. You know, as I've just mentioned, many people have left Christianity. Even the church itself, to try in a futile attempt to be relevant, adapts itself constantly to try and get more people in. You know, so it's common maybe you to know of that there can be whereas before traditionally you'd only have a male priest, now you can have a woman priest, which wasn't accepted for a long time. Or you can have a homosexual priest, you know. In fact, even in their services, they've changed it so much to try and be adaptable, or try and get more people that you can go to a Christian service, which I observed once, and it was like going to a concert. You know, there was drums, guitar, there's a band singing, you know, in trying to adapt itself, you know. So all in all, I mean, Christianity as a religion, it doesn't seem to really have any relevance anymore. And even Christmas, you know, is not nothing to do with Christianity. But the funny thing is, though, you know, I've had discussions with many Christians in the past, debates, you know, and I've had this same discussion actually about comparing Christianity as a way of life to Islam, and showing, oh well, actually as Muslims we have these answers to these problems as you don't. But he'll always have the last laugh. Do you know why? Because after, you know, I've refuted him, he will say, okay, Mr. Smarty Pants, where are these solutions you speak of today? What's our answer to that? So, where is the solution for poverty you talk about? You know, you talk about Islam has a solution for poverty, okay. So why are your countries the most poorest in the world then? Where's this rule? You talk about crime and punishment, justice, okay, you're the most just, okay, so why is there so much crime in your countries? Or why is there increase in crime? You know? Why is, you talk about economy, Islam having all these great models has laws and principles for economy. Why are our economies the weakest in the world? You know? Foreign relations, you talk about foreign relations, you know? Our countries are a joke. You're 52 nations, you know, your only foreign relations are doing the bidding or doing serving the Western states, you know. Do we see Saudi Arabia doing anything about Palestine or Syria? Or do we see Egypt doing anything? Do we see Pakistan doing anything about Muslims dying? Do we see Malaysia and Indonesia doing anything about the Muslims dying in Burma? No. So where is this Islamic foreign policy you just eloquently preached to me, where there's no example for it in the world today? You know? Our countries, in terms of education, our educational institutes are ranked the most lowest in the world. You know? But there's one thing actually we do rank high in. You know what it is? It's corruption in our countries. The most corrupted in the world. So, even locally, here in Britain, you know, we see an increase in Muslims getting involved in maybe drugs, illicit relationships, so on and so forth. So what has happened here? You know, where are these solutions that we talk about, that we're proud of? You know, is it that what we find is these very solutions have been removed from life? They've been, you know, starting off with the removal of the Khilafah, the Islamic State, and even more so to this day, we find that more and more now there's this push to secularize or Christianize Islam, and remove Islam from society, just like Christianity was. You know, now there's a call to reform Islam, to change Islam. You know, and how they're doing that? They're talking about this, obviously saying the Quran is outdated, it's not relevant anymore. You know, that the laws are backward. You know, our laws that bring harmony, that bring peace and between societies are extreme. You know, these same laws which, you know, promote marriage and a society where you have no sexual promiscuity, where you have families, children brought up in families, not outside of families. These laws are said to be extreme, irrelevant, outdated. In fact, there's a push now to remove this from the Muslim community. You know, out of fear, scaring us as a community into cooperating via threatening us with visits from prevent officers, or even in our children in our schools. You know, showing like little signs of extremism, which could be praying, asking for a prayer room, or having a different political opinion. You could have a prevent officer knock on your door. You see. So what's the danger here? You know, why am I making this point? Why have I spent so much time talking about Christianity and how it has been removed from societies, because the same thing is actually happening to Islam. These great solutions which we talk about, bit by bit, are being removed from every aspect of life. And this is why actually us as Muslims, our dawah is important. It's not just, we're not calling for the return of Islam as in every aspect of life just because it's a Sharia requirement, or just because to show that we're intellectually superior or to win arguments. There's more than that. In fact, this is the very existence of Islam itself. This is why actually we call for the return of Islam, or that's why we counter all these attempts, all these calls to reform Islam, to change the Quran. Why? Because we don't want to go down the same path as Christianity has and develop to be all Muslims just by name. Where you have a Muslim name, you go, are you religious? Yeah, I'm Muslim, but I don't really follow it. Just like many Christians say. And to not have an Islamic identity, to just be like how the non-Muslims are, in not following any code or any principles or any morals in life. That is the danger here. That's what's at stake. That's why it's our duty as Muslims to stand for Islam, to defend Islam, to stop it from being just like that. But alhamdulillah, I don't think as a community we're just there yet. We still see so much good as us as Muslims and as a community. In fact, a lot of these Christian values David Cameron was talking about are actually not in the Christian people; they're actually in the Muslims. So in our communities, you can very much still see a concern for our neighbours, working to do good, working to try and sort our problems out, our drug problems we have in gangs, things like that. We still see this goodness in the ummah, But slowly, these values which uphold all this community cohesion amongst us is what's being attacked. You see, but essentially, it's almost like we are the last people, as a nation, who are still worshipping Allah. Preparing for this talk, it reminded me of the hadith at the time of the Battle of Badr, when the time when Muhammad was making so much dua and feared for defeat, feared that actually if we lose this battle, Allah will not be worshipped anymore. Are we not that community these days? We talked about all these other religions, actually how they've been removed from society slowly, how they have no relevance. Who's just left now? Who are the only people on this earth who actually have a way of life, who actually call to worshipping Allah in every aspect of life? It's essentially only us as a community, you see. So with that comes great honour and responsibility, because Allah will protect His deen, Allah will protect us, but He will do it through who? The believers, through us as Muslims, Allah won't let His deen go to be destroyed, But we should think as Muslims, all of us, we have a role to play, a duty to play in upholding this deen, in working for it, in speaking out when they're trying to change Islam, reform the Quran. This very Quran where Allah Ta'ala said, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. This day I have perfected your deen for you, completed my favour upon you, and have chosen for you Islam as your deen. Allah has said al-yawma, that means today. What day is Allah talking about? This was when this surah, the ayah was revealed, when Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the last sermon. Allah completed this deen then, finished it. That's it. There's no reformation after that. There's no change. You see. So how can we be happy when they're trying to change this deen? And Allah said He completed it. It is complete. We can't be happy. We can't say, okay, maybe we need to change some of it to protect, to give in to some of the pressure. It's pretty hot right now. Muslims are getting assaulted on the street, beaten up here. Our pregnant sisters. Let's fold a bit. Let's just cool down a little bit. How can we say that as Muslims? And Allah has said He's completed this deen. You know, so what is our accountability as Muslims? What is our duty? You know, because Allah will bring the victory, and on the Day of Judgment, all of us will be as a Muslim ummah will be split into groups. That's why it's called Yawm al-Fasl, which means division. You know, there'll be the non-Muslims, the Munafiq. There'll be the Muslims as well. But even amongst ourselves, there'll be divisions. There'll be those who worked to uphold Allah's deen, to strive to, who didn't give in to the fear, to the pressure, who didn't give in just to protect our comfortable lives and chop and change and agree with these changes just so our kids could just go to school, so we could be safe in the street. You know, we'll be put into groups, and the believers who will be on the right path all along, who will call for the deen, who stood up for Allah's deen, they will have a nur, you know. And those that didn't, they won't have that nur, but they'll be trying to get that nur, saying, oh look, you know, we were with you all along, we were with you all along. But in this life, they folded, you know, they fell to the pressure, they gave into it, you know. So I was just saying this. So I was going to say something else, just slipped my mind. So I wasn't intending for my talk to be too long today. Inshallah, I hope we can open up more and question and answers. But I think what I'll do is I'll just summarise my whole talk, which was that I started off with talking about how Islam is not a religion, it is a complete way of life, which I hope we all now agree upon, to those of you that said Islam was religion. And that Islam is actually unique in the fact that it is a complete way of life, and it has answers and solves problems, you know, to which religions can't do. We see what's happened to religions in other countries and societies. They've practically been removed from country from the people to the fact that you can't even identify them as Christian or religious countries anymore, you know. But on top of that, Islam is being attacked the same way. Islam is being removed from society, has been removed from society. The rules and the Sharia, the fiqh of Islam is under attack on a daily basis. They're trying to change Islam. And our duty as Muslims is to not to give in to this fear, the fear of abuse, the fear of imprisonment, or just a generic community fear. We're not to give in to this and not to succumb to this call to try and change Islam. As a matter of fact, we should uphold it in every way we can, whether that be in our households, with our children. You know, we face it on every issue, you know. Now, I remember so many years ago, you wouldn't have been worried about having to tell your school that you want to pull your child out of being in a nativity play. But now, just something as simple as that, you fear, well, I'll get a knock on my door. You see? So many things just like that with our children, in our communities, we can't give in to Islam. Sorry, we can't give in to that pressure, you know. We can't give in to this call to change Islam. And lastly, the fundamental reason for that is because of our accountability. Because Allah will protect this deen, inshallah. It won't go down the same way as how Christianity had. But what will be our standing in front of Allah when we are questioned of what did we do for our bit, you know, to protect His deen? How did we call for it, its implementation? Or did we give in to the fear? So inshallah I want to end it there and open it up for questions, inshallah.